The Out of Bounds Show podcast is brought to you by Live Oaks Golf Club and Roosevelt's at Live Oaks. Whether you're in the mood for a hot lunch or you want to go play a quick 18 with a cold beer, the only choice is Live Oaks Golf Club and Roosevelt at Live Oaks on Highway 49 North.
WRKS Pickens Jackson.
You ready?
Let's go! 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now live in the Bank Plus studio, where college football meets the all lifestyle.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is
The Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds, streaming around the world live at the Out of Bounds radio app and on your radio at ESPN 105.9.
Where are you?
The Zone.
Hey. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, WRKS, ESPN. Welcome in. Good morning. Hope you're doing well, Mississippi. Woo! Off and running midweek. All kinds of fun topics and storylines, unless you're Ben Howland. Live in the Bank Plus studio. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app and the Zone1059.com. I got the Blakey Blakester with me. I'm your host, Bo Bounds. Recapping Ole Miss, big win over Mississippi State. Really blew them out, 64-46. Ole Miss did exactly what they wanted to do, make it ugly. Defense drove the whole thing. They dictated everything on the defensive end of the floor last night and manufactured just enough offense with Schuler leading the way and some others. And they get a big win for Kermit Davis Jr. His back was kind of against the wall. I mean, they weren't good last year, okay? And they were just ripping off loss after loss after loss. And he didn't walk into a major rebuild. It may have been a little here and there. And then you factor in what they had done the first 5 games of conference play. Things were not looking good. But Kermit Davis Jr., Mississippi State alum, Ole Miss head coach, got his team in the right mental state of mind to go and compete, and he dictated again tempo and the way the game was going to be played. A&M and Buzz Williams did the same thing to Ben Howland last week. So Mississippi State basketball fans are frustrated. Ole Miss are happy for now. They're still thinking about Lane Kiffin and football and baseball, which is fine. But is this it for Ben Howland? You know, will he kind of – he's about to go through the meat of the schedule. I mean, they could lose several. You know, they could lose like 4 or 6. Okay,
That's the issue. You lost the easy ones.
right. A&M and Ole Miss at home,
And Kentucky at home.
yeah, no doubt.
This year, that's a winnable game. That was a loss. You lost a winnable game that you were up double digits.
If you win 2 of those 3, Ole Miss being one of them, people are in a better state of mind. However, you're 9-6, 4-3 in the conference. And, boy, it doesn't look like you've got any guy that can go out and get you what you need. You know, just maybe you're finding this so much in college basketball, AAU. So many kids that are good but passive. You know, they play 400 games in junior high and high school, so they don't know how to go get the win. There's always another game, always another tournament. There's no sense of urgency. So when there is a sense of urgency within the shot clock and or a game, once you get at the college level in conference games, they're not set up to go get the game. You know, we did see Q Weatherspoon and Brian Tyree. Those were players that could go get it. I mean, when it's there, you have to go get it. You got to go get the flag on the hill, so to speak. But to me, it's all about the last 5 seconds of the shot clock. It is. That's where the game is played. Can you make a shot? Are you a shot maker? Or can you create something that allows one of your teammates to have a great look at the basket under 5-6 seconds? And if you can't, well, you're just kind of what everybody else is. That's not what Brian Tyree and Q were. And look, Schuler, he's got some dog in him. He's been around forever. 4th-year senior. He got to see it with Terrence and Brian Tyree. And he's a really good player. He may not be great like Brian Tyree was a great college basketball player and Q Weatherspoon was a great college basketball player. Not talking about the NBA, but those 2 guys are great college basketball players. Schuler's really good. DJ Stewart and Molinar are not that. Now, they may be. They're still young. Stewart's got all this potential, but he still looks raw to me and just not consistent enough with his shot. And do you feel like he can get that shot under 5 seconds on the shot clock? I don't. I mean, he can sometimes, but not at the Tyree Q level. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe that's unfair. I don't know. But I think it's pretty obvious when you're watching games. I don't care if it's the Big Ten or ACC. This is all shot clock driven and what you can do. Are you a shot maker? And Schuler was last night. 8 of 13 from the field and 3 of 5 from three-point land. And Ole Miss wins 64-46. And Kermit Davis Jr., Mr. Mississippi State, who's the Ole Miss coach, comes away with the W. Ben Howland's 4-7. And your scrambled eggs and coffee for Mississippi State fans doesn't taste good today. And if you thought people were checking out, it's over now. It's over. I mean,
yep.
People have checked out for the rest of the year. Has Ben lost the fan base? I would think so, but I don't know for sure. I don't have anything against Howland. I think he's done a really good job. I know that's – look, neither one of these – it's hard to win in Starkville and Oxford. But this may be it for Ben. Ben may be thinking about Santa Barbara, California. He's made a ton of dough. He rebuilt your program. He took you to a tournament, maybe 1 or 2 NITs. I don't know, and you don't care. But, and I just don't think he's got a loaded staff at all. In fact, I think, anyway. Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone, brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau insurance agent. It's National Cheese Day. When you go to the Mexican restaurant, Blake?
Yeah.
And they automatically give you the salsa and chips?
Yeah.
But then you know how you order the
queso.
That's what I'm saying.
Sí.
Queso is amazing.
Sí.
I can't eat it every day or even once a week, but it's phenomenal. Rotel is amazing. Boar's Head has an amazing portfolio and assortment of cheeses. If it's game day, it's Boar's Head. Game day platters, charcuterie. It's National Cheese Day. Load up. Have some fun tonight. I know we don't necessarily have like a big game like we did last night or football, but we got plenty of college basketball and so on. All right. We're going to go to the phones. 601-707-3750, brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Stephen, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Bo. How are you?
Hey, buddy. Doing well.
Look, I just had a question, and really a thought that I wanted just to hear you weigh in on. Like, obviously, I'm not super happy with the direction of Mississippi State basketball. I don't love how Ben Howland's coaching. I do like how he's recruiting. But my question is, most State fans seem to have their mind made up that they want to make a move. Mm-hmm. But, what are the optics of the job if you get rid of Stansbury, the most successful coach you've had, wins-wise, you just have a bomb with Ray, and then Ben Howland's name is huge nationally. Mm-hmm. If Howland can't win at Mississippi State and you run him off, what are the optics of your job? How are you going to be able to bring somebody in? Like a young up-and-coming coach is going to look at Ben Howland with his connections to Adidas. If he can't make it happen, how can they think that's a springboard for them to a bigger job? And then to layer on top of that, do we trust John Cohen to make that hire? I mean, do we have a lot of faith that he's going to make the next home run hire for Mississippi State basketball when I could make a strong argument that this is the least attractive the job has ever been in my lifetime?
Okay.
So that's just a thought. I'd like to hear you weigh in.
No, I will. I like it. Thanks for the call, Stephen. Here's what all right. Here's why the job will still be attractive. A young guy, and I mean young, will think, I'll take it for $2.2 million, 4-year contract. That like Nate Oates taking the Alabama. I mean, Avery Johnson was an NBA guy, and he couldn't get it done. That didn't deter Nate Oates at Buffalo from taking the Alabama job. So if you offer this job to someone for $2.3 million to go to Starkville, Mississippi with his young family at 32, 38, 44 years old, that guy he doesn't care about Ben Howland. He believes he can win. at Mississippi State. We'll continue on with this. The show is brought to you by Roosevelt's, the super cool restaurant at Live Oaks Golf Club. Daily lunch specials, delicious sandwiches and burgers, all at Roosevelt's at Live Oaks Golf Club. Let's see. Kenny is on our Twitter timeline at Bo Bounds. He's an Ole Miss fan, and he said on Ben Howland, I love him. Lifetime contract, please. Yeah. 64-46, Ole Miss with the win. Man, that was an awful performance. And, you could lose the game, but when the effort's not there or interest, and, Kermit Davis Jr. was a madman from the start. And, again, he understands the rivalry. He thinks he was passed over. He believes he should have gotten the job after Rick Stansberry. He thought he should have gotten the job after Rick Ray. He's now at Ole Miss. And, they're 2-4 in the conference, but he just won the in-state rivalry game. And, see, he's got some shade because Kiffin won this year. He won the Golden Egg. He did some things that haven't been done in a while. And then Ole Miss is into baseball, so he can kind of just ding Mississippi State, win a few games, and still make it. Now, this thing's not trending the right way for him either, but he will get next year. It'll be interesting to see if he can get this thing rolling. The flip side, Ben Howland, he lost the fan base last night. I don't know how you get it back. You know who you play next? Alabama. They may beat you by 75, and I'm not kidding. They had LSU by 104 at one point during the game. Bama has this team of Avery Johnson / Nate Oates players. And LSU is talented. And at one point, it was like Bama was playing a high school team. And you get to play Alabama next, right? Then Tennessee, at Tennessee. I know they just lost last night to Florida, but is that Iowa State as part of the SEC Big 12 Challenge or something that I'm looking at?
House divided in the Shane Power family.
Yeah, well, Shane's going to go with MSU. At Arkansas, at South Carolina, yeah, you're going through the meat of the schedule. When do they play Ole Miss? February 20th at the Pavilion. February 20th in the Pavilion, Mississippi State at Ole Miss. You still have Alabama twice. Good. At Auburn, you're not winning that. This is gonna be ugly down the stretch. Yeah. I would have to believe he was safe going into the game, and now this will be it. Even on a year where I don't think they wanted to. I don't think an AD ever wants to make a move. They want their coaches to win so that they don't have to do all that. But Blake, I thought he was coming back going into the game. No idea that they would lay an egg like that. And Kermit Davis Jr. would dominate the game, both on the sidelines and his players between the lines. And it happened, and people are upset. Now, there is let's switch on Hugh Freeze. Tennessee has a job opening, football coach. The title of this article by Blake Topmeyer, and that's not Blake's pen name. All right. This is KnoxNews.com. Hugh Freeze need not apply for Tennessee football job. Here's how Randy Boyd made that clear. Randy Boyd is the UT system president, right? All right, so you're following me. Here's his quote in a private interview exclusive interview, with Knox News. This is his quote. You don't clean house of a bunch of people who aren't following compliance and go out and get other people that don't seem to have a record of following compliance. Boyd told KnoxNews.com. And this quote really jumped out at me as far as how bad the scandal could be, that Chancellor Donde Plowman called the investigation's findings stunning based on the amount of violations and number of people involved. I'm going to say it again. If you chase Saban and you do it where you're trying to get it done in 3-4 years, you're going to end up where Tennessee and Ole Miss ended up. Now, Clemson was able to be out here on this island because they're not in the same conference. It's slow build, slow build, slow build, slow build, slow build, slow build. Kirby better be careful. He's running hard and hot. Okay? Now, he's in a state where it's hard to get on probation because there's nobody there to turn you in. Nobody cares about Georgia Tech, right? I mean, unless you need to go to the restroom when you're going through the middle of Atlanta. And so Kirby's running hot. And I've said this. You can go, they'll let you go 90 in the Southeastern Conference in a 65. And that's still blowing and going. But if you go 130, more times than not, they're going to ring you up. If you chase Saban and you get out of who you are and what you are, what's going to happen? What's happening at Tennessee right now? Because there's this automatic, you come in and you're from Alabama. So that means you know exactly what Saban did and how he does it, and you know the formula, and you know the blueprint, so on and so forth. And that's all Tennessee boosters and alums on the barbecue circuit talked to Jeremy Pruitt about. And so Jeremy's thinking one thing, this is how the Alabama Roll Tide Monster works. And we got to put this thing in play. I got to do it right now. In my first recruiting class, I got to be here. My second recruiting class, I got to be here. Third recruiting class, I got to be as good or better than Bama. Not going to happen. Brian Harsin will have to be careful. Gus seemed to me he didn't reach too much. They recruited well, stayed around 10 to 15. He had some good football teams, but he wasn't going to get too. Auburn boosters are aggressive, but he wasn't going to go 130. He would let them go 100, dial them back down to 90, staying around 95. Everything's pretty good. It looks to me like Ed Ogeron at LSU, Kirby Smart at Georgia, Jeremy Pruitt at Tennessee need to be careful. Here's something else. Keep an eye on what Jimbo Fisher's doing. He already came in this state and grabbed the number one recruit. He went to New Jersey, grabbed the number one recruit. He was able to go into several states, 2, 3, 4, 5 states over, and grab the number 1, 2, 3 player. When you're Bama, you can do that, and people will look the other way, fair or unfair. When you're Clemson, to a certain extent, you can do that. When you're Ohio State, you got to be careful here how much you're willing to reach to get players. Jimbo's running hot because they're all chasing Saban. And how bad they get beat this year, 28? So he's thinking, I got to get more. I got to do whatever it takes to get more players, better players, more 5-stars, more 4-stars. Even Mullins kind of rebooted his staff. He's not a recruiter, which a lot of that is not the case. Some of it is true. But he has hired Tim Brewster and Wesley Crime Dog McGriff, and those are big game hunters. I mean, Tim Brewster beat the Freeze Ole Miss booster machine for Cam Akers in their backyard. That's all you need to know if he can go big game hunting. So, and is Jimmy Sexton screwing this thing up for Tennessee, Blake? Because he's a Tennessee alum and because of what he does for a living, is he messing and mucking this thing up even more? I wonder if that is the case, because this is like delicious dysfunction. This is dysfunction on steroids. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, is brought to you by Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center. Any age, any sport, any injury, they've got you covered at Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center. New surgery center and clinic. Lakeland Drive, Flowood. State-of-the-art, built for and around the patient. Also, of course, their place on fortification the last 30 years. MississippiSportsMedicine.com. Dave Bartoo on Tennessee coming up next.
The Out of Bounds Show is powered by the award-winning golf courses at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Boar's Head. If it's game day, well, it's any day. You want to go with the delicious food, meats, cheeses, and hummus, bacon, among other things, from Boar's Head. Unmatched in quality and handmade craftsmanship, but it's National Cheese Day. I'm looking at this smoked Gouda cheese from Boar's Head. We've had it several times, both in studio and at the house. Of course, they've got American cheese, Vermont cheddar, picante provolone. Boar's Head, compromise elsewhere. You can find it at any number of grocery stores, supermarkets, and so on. If it's game day, it's Boar's Head. Welcome in. Good morning. Ole Miss with the dub last night, 64-46. Over MSU, and most of the fan base is ready to move on from Ben Howland, fair or unfair. And we'll see what shakes out. Brutal stretch of games coming up. They've got Alabama. Alabama's beating everybody by 30. So that could get ugly going forward for Ben Howland and MSU. Ole Miss, they're not really doing anything, but they beat Mississippi State. I mean, they're not a good team, but give them credit for what they did last night. They played hard. They played with focus. Kermit Davis Jr. had them ready to play and compete, and they did what they needed to do. And defense drove everything, and they wore Mississippi State out. Show is brought to you by Edmund Watts Golf Shop on County Line Road. If you're thinking about lunch today, it's Roosevelt's, baby. It's a great place. Roosevelt's, Live Oaks Golf Club. That is their restaurant. Delicious burger, speaking of National Cheese Day. Throw a little combo on there. They have great burgers. They're doing a super job on social media. I think JB, the man, the myth, the legend, John Brazier, has taken over their social. And so Roosevelt's for lunch, sandwiches, daily lunch specials, burgers. They've got it at Live Oaks Golf Club. Roosevelt's, fantastic place to smash a burger and some fries and a cold beer. Sun just came out, which is nice here. And then you can play 9 or 18 at Live Oaks Golf Club, Highway 49 North. We have Dave Bartoo with us, and we've been talking about Tennessee throughout the morning and their dysfunction. Their culture is rotten. I don't know what you chalk it up to. It could be obviously Philip Fulmer pulling too many strings. We also talked about Jimmy Sexton. Now, Sexton has screwed up plenty of college football programs, but Sexton is a Tennessee alum. And so you just wonder if he's too close to it. You know that he wants his guy, right? He wants his guy to be hired. I don't know if he cares which one, but someone that is a client within his sports agency. And has Sexton mucked this up? Was he the one? You know, we blamed Fulmer and some others when John Curry flew out to interview Mike Leach, and Mike Leach would be winning at Tennessee. But when Curry flies out, meets Leach on the West Coast, they do the dog and pony, and they think they got the deal done. By the time Curry lands, he's out of a job. Did Jimmy Sexton know that Curry was meeting with Leach? Absolutely. He's in the business. Plus, he's a big booster, and he may be on the board of trustees. Sounds like conflict of interest to me, but is he too close to the deal to actually recommend the right hire to Tennessee because he's an agent? Those are the questions that we have. Are they a blue blood? No. Are they a good program? Yes. When I was growing up, Johnny Majors was winning. Then Philip Fulmer stabbed Johnny Majors in the back, literally. Majors was in the hospital. Takes over, lands Peyton Manning. They don't win it, but they win big. And then they beat they win it with T. Martin the next year over FSU. Anyway, we welcome in our dude, Dave Bartoo, out on the West Coast at CFB Matrix. And Bartoo joins us on the Let's Go with the B to Andy Gator guest line. Bartoo, good morning. How are you, bud?
Oh, dude, I'm having a great morning. Great morning. Had two calls already. Doing a defensive back search right now, special teams coach search, and working on a head coach search. And met with two of them already this morning. These football people, man, I'm telling you, dude, 4 a.m. and it's go time. I don't know. I mean, seriously, it cracks me up. I remember the first time I was in a meeting with football program, and the whole staff was in there, and dude to my right's falling asleep in the first 3 minutes. These guys are so tired. I mean, this is like off season, and dude's like, I've been up for 76 hours straight, man. I just got to get some sleep while you talk. I hope you don't mind.
We were talking about that, Bartoo. Doug Marrone, he's a former Jacksonville Jaguar coach. It looks like Saban just hired him as the offensive line coach at Alabama. And Blake and I were going back and forth and laughing. We're like, why in the hell would you take a college job if you've already got an NFL pedigree and can probably land that same job in the NFL? Who in God's name wants to chase down 17-year-olds when you know as an NFL assistant you don't have to do that in the quote-unquote off-season? But anyway, let's stay on Tennessee because you and I are good at venturing down another rabbit hole and ending up somewhere.
Digressing the wrong path.
Exactly. Throw two of us together, and we're going in random bars in Jacksonville, Florida for the Georgia-Florida cocktail party. Anyway, so Tennessee.
Lots of rabbit holes.
Yes. When you look at what they've been through and where they're going, what do you see with this Tennessee job, Bartoo?
I mean, it's like a stage 5 clinger right now, isn't it? I mean, it is just. So I think the first thing is everybody needs to calm the hell down, especially Vol fans. I mean, it's like, here's my list of people I'd like to interview for the head coach. First of all, you have like level 1 recruiting coming down the pipe, and you think Billy Napier, who turned down South Carolina and Auburn, is even going to talk to y'all. Okay, so we got to calm down, and so because there's a lot going on here. You lost your AD; they got to replace that. They got to replace their head coach, and like you said, it's a blue blood program, and they have to. There's got to be some kind of reckoning here because there's something going on behind the scenes that is consistently holding the program back. And you and I have talked about these programs before: the Michigans, the Tennessees, kind of Florida State right now, maybe a little bit of USC. I think everybody's hoping maybe Texas turned the corner because college football is better when all the big brands are humming. Okay.
Yes.
They are. Tennessee is a big brand. When people say sleeping giant, that Tennessee is a sleeping giant. They've won a national title. They've recruited in the top 10. They have the ability to be there. So through whatever fault of their own, they're just not – since they won that national title, the wheels have completely fallen off, and nobody knows where they're at. So, it's – and like you said, is it Jimmy Sexton? Is it Jimmy Haslam? Is it a combination thereof? Is it a crazy fan base? Because, dude, they're crazy. I love the passion, but a little bit crazy. So,
look, I've been there and around them. They are loco, super nuts.
Yeah,
Bartoo.
Well, and I think some of it just may be that idea that, look, we were always in their mind is we won a national title. I want to get back there. I want to feel that again. If we were there once, we should be there again. And fortunately or unfortunately, that's a lot of programs in the SEC, right? I mean, Auburn wants to go back to a national title. Tennessee wants to go back to a national title. Hell, Arkansas fan that's 100 years old remembers the national title, wants to go back to a national title. There is a lot of pressure everywhere. But I think with Tennessee, I think we just need a couple of weeks of dust settling. And just see where this goes. But the first thing they're going to do is get an AD, and then go from a head coach from there. And from a head coach standpoint, I know you didn't ask the question, but isn't that kind of the next one is who might these guys be? And if the recruiting violations are as bad and as harsh as people are talking about, and there's significant issues with the program, I think it might be really, really hard to pull that up-and-coming next head coach into a bad situation. So right now, I'd get a good AD, and you're probably going to end up with some sort of veteran head coach to try to right the ship and just get it sailing straight forward for the next few years.
I wonder if Gus would take it with everything you just. I mean, we've been talking about the NCAA stuff too. Knox News had an exclusive interview with their chancellor, and it's not good. Some of it's self-inflicted. They almost had to go all in on the investigation to be able to fire Jeremy Pruitt with cause, which that's still going to be that's still going to go to court. But he did not say Hugh Freeze's name, but his quote in this article is, "You don't clean house of a bunch of people who aren't following compliance and go out and get other people that don't seem to have a record of following compliance."
was he subtweeting Hugh right there?
Maybe.
Here's the one thing, and I know like the Gus thing kind of sounds a little funny, but I really believe it will be. I'm leaning towards not currently a head coach, former head coach that can deal with a big program that has dealt with programs at the bottom. I think you have to look at Tennessee. This is just right at the bottom. And Gus isn't so far-fetched because there's one of the things I've learned in all the years of dealing with head coaches and ADs and so forth, okay? Head coaches want a head coach. Once they get bit by that bug, they want a head coach. They're always, I'll guarantee you right now, Gus Malzahn is either 100% retired or on the phone right now trying to get a head coach job. They are crazy about getting a head coach job when they want that job. They all do. Every single one of them. Even like Jeremy Pruitt, even though he's been fired, the only thing he's going to be looking for is how do I get back to being a head coach. Look at Sarkisian in Texas. What did he talk about? Rehabbing his image, rehabbing his body, his mind, I want to get back there. I did everything I could to get back to this position. It's just a different way of saying it, but all these guys, man, all these guys want that job. So I think Tennessee will have an opportunity to bring in a veteran head coach, a good one. They just need to figure out the one that is best at dealing with the disaster. And don't say Bill O'Brien, because all he did is barely keep that ship afloat at Penn State. I don't know why people think he did a great job there.
Okay. All right, so Bartoo just confirmed that Houston Nutt is the next coach for the Tennessee Volunteers. All right? I want everybody to go to your message board and your Twitter feed right now and run with Bartoo has Houston Dale Nutt at the University of Tennessee.
5-star lock, baby.
Oh, goodness. All right, so Gus would be a good hire.
Gus would be a great hire. He really would.
Because he's a grown-up.
I could see him hold
He's
down.
a grown-up,
Oh.
Dave.
Yeah, and he's won at he's won at the big boy level
At
he
a brutal
the SEC
place.
Pressure.
Brutal.
Oh,
Auburn.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Blake. You want to jump? Dave Bartoo at CFB Matrix on the Abita Andy Gator guest line talking UT Vols. And we may have some more movement, by the way. We don't know what's going to play out here at LSU. They may take that model of what Tennessee just did and kind of drop it on their football program. Their football and basketball programs are under investigation. That's not good. Blake?
No. We've been discussing this kind of new angle on this, the Sexton involvement and the conflict of interest when like, I get that he's going to push his guys on random university XYZ because that's what agents do.
Sure.
But when it's your organization making the hire, you know, when you're the CEO's son and you get your buddy hired as vice president, that's conflict of interest, right? Like, it's the same thing with Sexton. So when I know you can't tell us exact examples, but when you're dealing with these universities who ask you to help them put together a list, and they come, do you have them come back to you first off and say, hey, make sure it's an XYZ guy, make sure it's a Sexton guy, make sure it's a Condon guy? Or do you see in your workings, have you seen people kind of subconsciously weed out people that way? And is that something you see happening at Tennessee to the point of it cripples the program from within because they cannot hire a non-Sexton guy?
Well, I think Tennessee would be different. I think on the intro, Bo, were you saying is Sexton on the board there at Tennessee or something close to that?
I don't know.
I've been
Google
looking.
That?
Yeah,
I want to. I mean, he's heavily involved. He may have been a trustee at some point. If he's a trustee now, that's
a big booster, right?
Oh, no doubt.
A big booster.
No doubt.
Okay.
He's got a skybox, and he gives a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a different paradigm right there. Now, a lot of guys give a lot of money. You probably wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't be either, if somebody said, "Hey, Jimmy gives about $50,000 a year to 26 different Power 5 schools."
Sure,
wouldn't surprise either one of us. Okay, same thing with former head coaches. Gus probably gives $20 to $50, maybe $100,000 to different schools he'd like to go work at. Okay, and he's been doing it for a while. But as far as Jimmy's influence on other programs, I have never had, and this is outside of Tennessee, and I haven't worked in Tennessee, but I've never had an athletic director say, I want a ex-agent guy, this agent, I want one of his guys, there's never been a discussion about that. And, in my workings with guys that have Jimmy as an agent as well, because I work with head coaches helping make their resume better with analytics. I have never seen a conflict there in the manner in which we all describe on the radio or social media or anything like that. I'm sure there's some pressures there, but if you're talking about a program that has a major agent, that is a major booster, that has a voice in the room, I don't see how he wouldn't have a conflict of interest wanting his guys to have a shot at it. I would get that, and is that the best available? Probably not, but, when have boosters wanted best available when they're friends or buddies with a current or former head coach? So I would totally agree with you in that him being a big booster, him having a voice in the room, he's going to lean towards whoever he has that he personally thinks is the best available guy, even if he's not. But that's kind of the case with all boosters all over the place. If they have a quote-unquote their guy, even if it's not the best one, they want that guy there. Part of it is the connectivity. Okay, so for everybody listening out there, if you're a major booster, let's say you give $3 million a year to pick a school, Tennessee, all right, and you have a voice. You give $10 million, you got a voice at the table. Your best friend is Gus Malzahn. Gus isn't the best guy, but if he does get the job, guess who gets to go to all the cool Tennessee parties and
right.
Get to hang out with the head coach. The head coach is going to be over at your house. You can tell stories and talk about the game, and you're going to be the big booster on campus because you brought the big man head coach on campus. And so this will cloud people's judgment in that they want that connectivity so bad they will do what's better for them before what's better for the program.
How would you advise? Let's say you were advising Jeff Brom, and Tennessee offered him $5 million a year for 4 years, knowing that it's going to be it could be bumpy first couple of years because of this NCAA mess. How would you advise Jeff Brom? Yes, take it.
If I was his agent, I'd say tell him to go pound sand. Probably take the interview. Always take the interview. I've talked about this before, especially during silly season. Everybody's always like, oh, I wonder if my guy's going to jump. Look, everybody wants an interview. Everybody. Your DB coach, your safeties coach, your line coach, your head coach, everybody wants an interview for two reasons. It makes you feel good. You want to see what the market is out there, but it's also connectivity. Behind the scenes, everybody is so intricately connected and knows what's going on. It amazes me. I'll talk to one program about a position that that they want filled, and then they ask me about, well, what about this other program over here that you're working for? Like, holy crap, how do you know that? I don't talk about these things, And so I think with Brom or anybody, I'd say take the interview. Feel it out. Specifically with Brom, you don't know when he's going to maybe be competing against Tennessee. Learn how they work. Learn what they do. Is that a job I would advise to take? Absolutely not. He's doing great at Purdue. He's pulling top 25 classes, going to have a shot at winning the division in 2021, and I think he holds out for a top 10 job, which Tennessee is not. But absolutely take the interview and learn and stay connected, but don't waste a lot of time with it.
Okay. Dave Bartoo at CFB Matrix on the Out of Bounds show. So, Gus, give me another name or two. Gus is out there. Give me...
Well, you can talk, former guys that,
Mark Richt?
That Mark Richt might. I mean, if he's not fully retired, he has the bug.
Okay.
And he took over the Miami program that was struggling. Now Gus hasn't taken over a struggling program. He was handed Auburn in a pretty good situation. Overall, I know they were losing. They'd come off a bad season with Gene, but still not a terrible program. There was no sanctions there. Who are some other guys that off the top of the head that let's see here. You got Rich Rod. Now he's down at Louisiana Monroe right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't tell me for a second he wouldn't love to not be Louisiana Monroe's offensive coordinator and be Tennessee's head coach.
Right.
Mike McIntyre, he's defensive coordinator at Ole Miss.
Good
Turned
coach.
that defense around in 1 year. He's inherited garbage. San Jose State and Colorado, both bottom of the bucket recruiters, turn them into division winners. I don't think you're looking to turn Tennessee into winning really much of anything, more along riding the ship. So the guys are out there. Now, the funny thing is, if you want to, you know how the fans keep saying, hey, bring T. Martin back.
Good grief.
Hey, T, here's a big bucket of crap to clean up for a few years. Why don't you hold on to the wheel of this ship until we get through this fog, and then we'll bring in a head coach.
Good
That'd
gravy.
be a jerk move.
Ooh, just make a bunch of money, get rich, get fired. That's what most of the jobs are in our league.
But the guys are out there. I wouldn't mind seeing Rich Rod there, McIntyre, Gus. There's I'm sure we could come up with 10 guys that we'd say, hey, heck, even Bill O'Brien. It's not like it was that bad. I was really kind of kidding about that. But they're all out there to take over the reins for at least 3 or 4 years during this mess.
We may have to do this again tomorrow or Friday. Dave Bartoo at CFB Matrix. Thanks, Bartoo. Appreciate it, buddy. Take care.
Peace, brother.
Hey, lunch today is brought to you by Roosevelt's Live Oaks Golf Club. Delicious burgers, sandwiches, daily lunch specials. They're doing some big stuff for the Super Bowl, too. Roosevelt's, the restaurant at Live Oaks Golf Club, Highway 49 North. Try it. You'll love it. Delicious cheeseburgers, sandwiches, and daily lunch specials. All at Roosevelt's at Live Oaks Golf Club. Please hit the podcast. Apple Podcasts, search the Out of Bounds Show. See you tomorrow.